Righto, we'll open the meeting at 6:30. Thank you very much. Two apologies, there are none. Leave of absence, there are none. Three, confirmation of council minutes, recommendation that minutes of the ordinary council meeting held Wednesday 18th September 2024, special council meeting held Wednesday 18th September 2024, special council meeting held Friday 4th of October 2024 be taken as read and confirmed. I'll make a note, some of those are in confidence, so if there's any questions, we need to move it into the confidence. If not, I'll move it, please. Neville, seconded, Trevor. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 34. Deputations, there are none. Petitions, there are none. 6, reports, minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, Thursday, 3rd of October, 22nd.
Thanks, Mayor Valentine. Yes, the committee met Thursday, 3rd of October to consider 7 different reports, including the annual financial statements, but that's still below, so I won't talk too much on that now. We did also talk about the comparison of budget to actuals. And you should probably aware from briefings from Lachlan, the main reason for difference when grants were received. Again, that's discussed a little bit more later. Lastly, the committee discussed the activity report, which is required to go into the annual report of council. So we've got 3 recommendations there tonight for you. Do you want me to read them out, Liam?
Yes, please.
The first one, the council accepts the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee held Thursday, the 3rd of October 2024, as read and received. 2, approves the financial performance report, comparison of budget issues for 23-24, and 3, endorse the Audit and Risk Committee activity report for inclusion in the 23-24 annual report of council. Thank you.
We'll move it for that, please. Luke, seconder. Chris, do you want to speak to that? Probably I'd like to make one reference if I could. So page 44, there was an addition to the new and emerging risk to added updated strategic risks and financial sustainability and financial assistance grant and so on was added to that. It was really just to draw your attention because probably the difference for me was really that the Audit and Risk Committee chair and the committee as a general took on board that strategic financial risk is now a key risk to be managed, and the fact that the chair wanted that actually noted in the minutes and that added to the section 6, I think was a good step forward, that it's now going to be there to be considered every time rather than be something you've got to bring up ad hoc. So just thought I'd raise that. So all those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Page 60, elected members' mayoral report. Take that as read unless anyone's got any questions. Recommendation the council receives and notes the content of this report. Obviously, I'm moving it. Second, Luke, any questions? No. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Next page 7.2, elected members' reports. Does anyone have a report they wish to put forward? Chris?
Yeah, I've got something go on Monday, that's all. Still chasing the dogs. That's else to say about that.
That was the Victorian changing their rules.
Yeah, and that Victorian person come over here and met with you afterwards. Yeah, so.
Oh, that's the cross-border commissioner.
Yeah, she come here too with dogs as well, so.
Yeah.
Yes, so. And nothing's happened. Poor guys in Victoria, they tried to apply for things to kill the dogs and knocking off their sheep, and they've got 50 and 60 on already, and they still can't get no sense out of the government, so they're just losing sheep left, right, centre, and if they do shoot one, a $10,000 fine. If you're a business, it's a $100,000 fine. So I don't know what they're going to do. So I feel sorry for them because they can't do nothing.
Yeah, I attended the Landscape SA meeting that was here. And there was a bit of a discussion about some of the things they were doing with the weeds or not doing. And also went to the forward committee and general meeting, just to see if get a feel for what's going on with that group.
And is there anything come from Landscape that was interesting?
Well, they were quite prepared to listen to let me speak, so that was a good thing. Yeah, and I think I might have given them a bit more of a razz up, so they're hopefully going to be a bit more forward, do a bit of their stuff a bit sooner than we did last year.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Oh, sorry, we didn't move it. I thought we were going to move it. Mover, Luke, secondary, Chris. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Sharon. You're going to need to be. Get back in the hot seat soon. 8.1, 2023 4 annual financial statements, Tony second.
Thanks again, Mayor Valentine. So this report provides council with a draft 2023 annual financial statements for formal adoption. 2023-24, sorry. Statements were prepared well in advance of the external auditor's visit, which was the 13th of September. Minimal whatever changes requested. The statements and the audit completion report are attached. Were you there? And they were presented and discussed in the committee. Vanessa attendance and Tim Mulhouse, our lead auditor. He attended via Zoom. Tim was again complimentary of council in the way we presented everything for the auditors, so it's good. And as we know, the delay in the timing of payment of the financial grant, financial assistance grant, has significantly impacted and distorted the council's end of year results. So that's evidence in note 15 of the statement showing the financial indicators. I know in your training earlier today we talked a bit about financial indicators. So the operating surplus deficit ratio in the statement shows a deficit ratio of 22.8%. However, the adjusted operating surplus deficit ratio, which takes into account the timing of that grant, does show a positive result of 0.9%, which is in line with council's projections of the budget year 3, which was a ratio of 1.8. So, assuming that the grant comes in time, we should have finished also. Also mentioned that it's customary for the committee to have an in-camera or private session with the lead auditor, management not being present, to discuss any issues. I guess if there were any issues, great concern that these meetings have the potential to go for a while, but it will note in the minutes, it says the meeting only lasted 4 minutes. So with all that being said, there's 3 recommendations here for you tonight. The council 1 received a note for the 23-24 annual financial statements report. 2, authorise the chief executive officer and the mayor to sign the certification of financial statements certificate associated with financial statements pertaining to the operations of the Southern Valley District Council for the financial year ending 30 June 2024, pursuant to section 14 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 2011. And finally, 3, the council adopts the audited financial statements for the financial year ending 30 June 2024, and in accordance with legislation, copy of those statements to be sent to the Minister for Local Government and the SA Local Government Grants Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I move it, please? Luke, second to David. Does anyone want to speak to that? Probably all I'll say in Tony's 4-minute presentation there about the thing is that yeah, there was nothing that we the committee wanted to raise with the staff out of the room, and that the auditors were again very praiseworthy of the system that the council is following, and that they put above their weight for a small council to deliver those financial reports as the system asks it to do. That's not about what's in them, like as in things we might talk about, but the actual process is spot on and well above what's expected of the council its size. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tony, page 137. 8.2, appointment of section 41 committee members, chief executive officer performance review panels. Could I be saying the person's name or their position, by the way? But okay. Oh, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so this report is for the council to consider reappointment of the members to the section 41 committee for the CEO performance review panel. So at its November meeting last year, the council resolved to establish the CEO Performance Review Panel to oversee the employment matters and the requirements for the employment agreement and the Act in relation to the appointment of the CEO. The membership for this panel expires in November 2024, so next month. And it's just worth noting that the panel, that its last meeting in September last month, the council did resolve to revise the responsibilities of the panel and did remove the recruitment and selection component out of the terms of reference, and establish a separate panel to oversee that process. So having said all that, the recommendation is that council receive the notes and contents of this report, that it resolves to retain the CEO Performance Review Panel under section 41 of the Local Government Act 1999 in accordance with the terms of reference contained in attachment 1, with clause 3.4 to be changed to November 2026, and appoints the mayor and two councillors as the members of the CEO Performance Review Panel until November 2026, and appoints the chairperson of the CEO Performance Review Panel.
So I'm technically asked, do we move it first, second it, and then put the names in, or we call for the names first?
This, to the Mayor, this is one I suggest you actually do recommendations 1 and 2 first of all. So you actually signal your intent to actually want to continue with the panel. Once you've done that, then as this council has taken a more informal way of getting nominations, then you do your normal process of saying you want someone going from there.
Okay. All right. In that case, can I have a mover for 1 and 2? Neville, second Trevor. Does anyone want to speak to 1 and 2? No? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And therefore, I think informally, does anyone want to nominate for the 2 councillors to be on that review panel?
I'd like to continue on it.
Cam would like to continue. Chris would like to continue. Else want to happy with that? Yes. All right, so we've got Councillor Mead and Councillor Michelle. So if that's the case, I think can I have a mover for that one? Number 3, Trevor. Second, Luke. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And number 4, who do we want to appoint as chairperson of the CEO Performance Review Panel?
Mayor?
Happy to continue doing
Yeah,
it.
I'm happy to continue if everyone else is happy. Yeah. Yeah, Chris, second to Luke, all those in favour. Against, carried, thank you. Don't know, I felt a bit messy, but way to do those properly. Page 145, reports, LGA Financial Sustainability Pilot Program Expression of Interest.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, members would have read from the report that this pilot program came up rather quickly. I would like to say in response to a lot of the advocacy of, I think, Mayor Wisdom, sorry, that's the tongue, Mayor Valentine and Mayor Bailey, in terms of the plight of rural councils specifically to the LGA. Nonetheless, whatever the genesis of it was, there is a pilot program that they've established. I did have a conversation with the project manager after I'd written this report, so I'll just talk to you, if I can, a little bit about what he had to say. My perception was that it was going to be a bit of a structured program, that the councils that participate probably went through a certain, form of training and those sorts of things. But he said, no, it's not. What it is that they want to take on a small group of councils for this pilot program, and it's really about what does each individual council need. So do they need financial training? Do they need someone to put together their long-term financial plan? Do they need asset condition assessment done? Do they need high-level service reviews done? So each council will who wants to participate will put in an application or expression of interest, talking about exactly what they want. And mostly it seems to be about accessing part of the $200,000+, isn't it? Is that right there? $225,000 available for those pilot program participants to fund some element that will assist their financial sustainability. So that's what it is. It said it came up fairly quickly, and the lodgement date for expressions of interest is equally quickly, 24th of October. So what I'm looking for council to do is to consider whether or not you want to participate in it, and perhaps when you're discussing that, it might be interesting if you have any thoughts about what you'd like us to specifically put in our application about where we would like to access assistance, i.e. funding.
How many councils are they looking at doing?
They haven't.
A small
number.
So
So 25 are going to go for.
No. So they're putting together a steering committee with representatives from the LGA, the LGFA, Local Government Financial Managers Group, and IPRIA, which is the engineering body. And they still need to work out. So they don't have a set number of councils. It's all very fluid, I suppose I would say.
Can I just, based on our question to Tracy earlier, can I get it moved and seconded to get it on, and I'll suspend it so we can actually talk about it?
I'll move it.
Neville, I second it. Chris, all those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. And can I seek leave of the chamber to suspend standing orders so that we can actually have a conversation about it?
Already voted on.
No, I voted on it to put the motion on.
Yes.
All those in favour? Got our 60%, thank you. So now we can just freely talk about it. So did you get what you need, Chris?
Yes.
I wouldn't mind adding in there just so that you can then ask more questions about it. Two things. I had a long conversation with Clinton Jury, the CEO of the LGA last night. And it would be fair to say there is a level of maturity of all of the standard things we've been talking about, asset management plans, long-term financial plans, all the things that feed in, as we heard financially this morning. And we're actually reasonably mature in that level compared to where a lot of other councils are. So probably if there was any ask from this council, it would be about, can we get any help with funding to see some of those plans further developed, i.e. the stuff we're talking about today with the road asset condition report and so on, trying to elevate that to a level. So that was the conversation with Clinton. There's not much else I can say from that conversation. But what I will say is there was also from the LGA board meeting, which only just happened, that the motion was moved by Mayor Evans and seconded by Mayor Jenkins, and that under financial sustainability and local government, and that the LGA Board of Directors, one, notes that the work being undertaken by the LGA to support the financial sustainability of member councils, two, authorises the LGA Secretariat to engage an independent consultant to review the financial assistance grants model and recommend any improvements for consideration by the board, including understanding the reason and calculation for funding the Department of Infrastructure and Transport's allocation of the Roads to Recovery grant, particularly in comparison to other states and territories. Two, a review of the Queensland decision to change the method for allocating FA grants to councils. Three, analysing trends in total grant funding in local government in South Australia, including tied, untied and other. And four, identifying any opportunities to improve the FA grant model, including providing greater support to councils with limited capacity to raise revenue, ensuring equity between all councils, and any opportunity to support changes to federal government requirements. And then number three, add an item of business to the 2024 Annual General Meeting agenda recommending that the Annual General Meeting requests the local government to A, notes the work being undertaken by the LGA to support the financial sustainability of member councils, including research and modelling of equitable and efficient alternative approaches to setting financial assistance grants, which provide an evidence base to support future related LGA advocacy on behalf of local government, and B, supports the LGA facilitating ongoing engagement within local government to identify further opportunities to support councils experiencing financial sustainability challenges, including through open, ongoing advocacy to the state and Commonwealth governments for greater support. That's in addition to this pilot program, but the plan of that is to get that in place for the OGM next year. So that will be voted on and will actually take the LGA into a advocacy and investigation state, and hopefully putting some money behind doing something greater than was done before, and including, you know, can they do anything with 30% per capita and all that sort of stuff. So I think understanding that in the light of this is this is about trying to lift councils that don't have much maturity in their system. And this one, the other one, is about trying to find if there's a better way or any way of funding it more equitably. So that, I just wanted to add that. It's not advocacy, it's just saying that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So anyone else got anything they want to ask? Campbell?
No, it sounds like a good thing to be a part of.
David?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just as expressions of interest. It's not to say we're going to get to be part of it. If we don't put it under there, we won't be part of it.
But
So
I think for clarity though, what Lachlan was saying is we do have to say what it is we're going to be asking.
yeah,
for.
that's good.
So it's not just saying we want to do it, you've got to actually say we want to be part of it because we want.
And that's something we read out. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So that's good, right?
Yeah, good. Okay, in that case, we'll come back. Well, unless there's anything you want to say while we're in.
I might as well, I didn't chair when Chris first asked the question in terms of, so they haven't said how many councils they're going to fund or what criteria they're going to use to determine that, which does make it a little bit difficult. But one idea that was flagged with me, just by the person I was speaking to, said that they might look, for example, at the councils who've had qualified audit reports this year, and the audit reports have been qualified on the basis of flaws in their asset management. So that makes complete sense. If their asset management is really poor, that they would try and focus on those councils first of all, which we haven't been qualified, so we wouldn't be one of those. But he said that might be the way we should target it as the ones who are absolutely dire need from a asset management sustainability point of view, because they can't get their financial statements signed off. Yep.
Right, back out again.
No, you can just call me to the.
All right, thank you. Call it a suspension. Thank you, Sharon. So we'll go back in. So in that case, I think we've had our, I don't think there's any need to go around again. So all those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Lachlan.
Page 148, report Pinneroo Retirement Village Information Report, Shiloh White. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So this report addresses information requested by the Resolution Council at the August meeting, from a motion put up by Councillor Valentine. The report addresses the first section of that motion, so sections 1, A, B, and C. Just to dig into it a little bit. So in the additional analysis, item 1A, whether a vacant unit within the village is able to be leased to a person ineligible under the retirement village scheme. Yes, there are ways to do that. As you'll see in there, under certain sections, there's a couple of different ways. So if someone's retired under 55, they can be leased under section, I think it's 57, and then there's alternative section 5 where we can lease it to somebody that doesn't even meet those criteria, but there's an application fee and you have to go to the minister and stuff to sort of work through that. Item 1B, whether the retirement village scheme can be ceased and continue to provide affordable residences for the current occupants. Again, there is potential ways to do that, but it is quite an arduous task. And if you don't get voluntary termination, you've got to go to Supreme Court and it could get quite costly quite quickly. So yes, it could be done, but it's not something that you would want to undertake lightly. Item 1C, the financial sustainability of the village. You would have seen the attachment there. I won't bother walking through that unless you really want me to. But I did want to draw your attention, make sure you did notice that the statement includes some things that you should have been aware of further down. So there's some caveats basically with those statements. So just make sure that you're aware of those in any decisions you make. the other thing I would draw your attention to is that any decision you do make with regards to the retirement village has to be taken in consideration of the Retirement Villages Act. So just be aware of that when you're processing any thoughts. So the recommendation is that council resolves to receive and note the contents of this report.
Thank you.
Chris, second, Luke, do you want to speak to that?
No, it's just all these renovations here, they're once in the last 40 years renovations, aren't they?
Yeah, we really haven't touched them like since about the early 80s.
So if you went 5 years before this, they'd probably be making a small profit every year.
I couldn't tell you that, I wouldn't want to guess, because the occupancy rates were up and down all the
Yeah.
time, so, yeah.
So this one here of 2022, that's more indicative of a regular year without major renovations.
Bear with me a second, and I'll scroll down, 2022. Yeah,
Through the chair, what is probably missing from that though,
Yeah.
if you look at under the operating expenditure line, look at depreciation.
Yeah.
So depreciation wasn't allocated for
Yeah.
2020, 2021 and 2022, so you can basically add, I did work out 23,600 roughly to the expenses, which would result in a total operating deficit of 13,200 for that year.
So why was depreciation not counted for that year?
Tony, sorry, through the mayor, Jay, are you able to
Not exactly across it, but I just, I wonder if there was a change in CAM standards. or
Yeah.
something. It just wasn't part of our regulation process, and then suddenly it was, and so it was changed accordingly.
If I, through the mayor, if I can just continue that, so putting depreciation in for the first 3 years, and then if you go to the end of the column, the current budget, because obviously the depreciation is not there yet at the moment, what the results would look like in terms of total profit loss, not the cash profits. I'm not talking about the last line, I'm talking about the fourth line up. You would have for the 2020 year, it would be a deficit of 24,500. For 2021, it would be a deficit of 21,200. For 2022, deficit of 13,200. Then the next 2 years are fine. And then the current year, if you put rough depreciation in there, it would be a deficit of 9,200.
So what stage of a building's life do we stop depreciating?
When it's
Like this is 40 years old, we've been depreciating for the last 40 years?
through the mayor, when we do revaluations of building assets, they revalue it because it still has a useful life. So if you continue to renew an asset, it never stops having a life and it never stops being depreciated because you know, as you sort of saw from those graphs today, you know, the life and the value of it will drop down, you renew it and you bring it back up again, and you depreciate it down again, and then you renew it and you bring it back up again. So it will, as long as we continue to renew them, they will always be depreciated.
No, it's fine.
And I think it's important, and so I don't mean to jump in, but the depreciation in this world is that it's basically the mechanism by which you accrue money to spend on it, as opposed to depreciating the asset for a tax write-off, which is why it never ends, because you're always, if you own the asset, you're always going to have to be putting money aside to spend on it. But what it does is it assumes that in those next 10 years, you might not be spending it on the unit per se, you might be spending it on the haul down the road or whatever, but then in time to come, you'll be spending it on the unit. Cool. Anything else on that?
No, that's all.
David?
Yeah, I was just wondering what the other expenses are. It's 20 grand.
So, other expenses are made up of a vast majority of staff wages. So groundskeeping, our wages from the property development team as well, when we're allocated stuff that we're doing down there, like having the meetings that we have to hold every, whatever it is, organising contractors, that sort of stuff. So the gardening, our wages, the insurance is all in there, and the
Contents and
sorry, well, that's been taken out of that one, sorry.
And what contents are insurance? That's the other question.
Yeah.
I think that's just the line, I don't think it's just the buildings.
Oh,
Oh.
No. So,
Insurance intelligence, whatever.
I don't know what the other piece that was in there.
How the insurance come back down, when insurance goes up, it doesn't come down.
How come it came down? It's ridiculous.
2022 was 4,317, in 23 we've dropped a grand,
Yeah.
and then come down again in 24.
New roof, less chance of it blowing off.
No insurance ever comes
I
down.
think in all fairness, we can ask questions. I know that Charlie's not going to have that sitting at his fingertips.
Yeah.
I think to be fair.
No, that was all, I was just wondering what the other expenses was, because it seemed
Yeah.
like significant.
And I think there's nothing wrong with getting that as a send that after if it's still a concern, because that is quite a bit of money.
No, I just had the same question about what insurance covered, whether it was only as or what's inside the units of theirs, but then, like I said, that the insurance, what the cost is, well, that's never come down that I know of, but yeah, something's funny there.
They might have got better insurance too.
Oh, I doubt it. Not that much.
Oh, it's just good that we can see that we can put somebody in there. We're going to jump through a few hoops, but
Yeah.
we can put somebody in there. It's a bit of a shame that it is in deficit quite often. Just another thing that we have that ratepayers are paying for somebody else, but anyway. That's my view. We shouldn't be, but yep.
One was on the first, so 1A, understanding that you can put someone in there for a 5-year term without ministerial. If it's vacant at the moment, does that mean that we could do that without basically anything other than just filling it, reading that? Because there's nothing we've got to apply for, apart from, I know it's not subsidised, but I guess I'm asking under.
So it depends on the individual. Yeah, so it's still, if they're under 55 and not retired, then we'd have to go to the OF.
So I guess the question I'm asking without shrouding would be if we have a CEO male or female that comes to us that's single and is going to be spending the week up here.
Yep.
Does that say that we are able to put them in there for a no greater than 5-year term?
Through the mayor, if I can just jump in here, I think probably one of the really important words in that first sentence is not immediately required for the purposes of
Okay.
So if council, and this was a discussion I had with an employee of the office, can you remember what the acronym is? Office for
Aging well, yeah.
That what they said to me was that you need to make genuine attempts to fill the units, and and as I understand what happened in the past, council was unable to fill them, in which case you'd probably kick in the section 57, but you know, but if it's not immediately required, so we've tried, we can't get anybody, and so therefore it's not immediately required for someone who's eligible, but if you did have people that either were eligible or you didn't really try, then you're not fulfilling the requirements of section 57.
So if there wasn't anyone ready to go into it or immediately available, then
we have tried.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
potentially
Yeah.
people there
Yeah.
currently, so I understand. No, that's right. I just wanted to ask that question, and then okay, no, that answers the other question as well, so I'm happy with that. Cool. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, Dave's hand was hesitating. I wasn't sure what's he doing? Oh,
He's on the fence.
We're just doing the report, aren't we?
yeah, it's just a report. There's no actions in this. Yeah.
Can I
Just checking, just checking.
Can I have a further question? Right, we've part this, have we?
We're done.
We're gonna go do something about this, or we're just gonna leave it like that, or can we bring it up at the next council meeting? That
Well, we can talk about it later on at some.
Yeah, okay, we'll bring it up this up afterwards, so we'll say, yeah.
Did it not come up in the CEO? When did we talk about it? There was people and pets. I thought it was in CEO update.
Well,
it wasn't.
I mean, we can, but we can do a question without notice.
Yeah, I'll do a question.
Yes, because it was discussed in the CEO update that there were people looking at the units. It was in the CEO update that there were people currently looking at the units, but there was a question around pets.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
So at the moment, there are people considering going in there who would be eligible. So unless that resolves in a negative way, there is no option to act currently. But we could. But you can put a whatever you like. Page 155. Quarterly report, performance reports.
Thank you, through the mayor. Members, in the past, you've received quarterly performance reports for each portfolio as separate reports. So as a bit of a, hopefully, a performance improvement initiative. Put it all together to one report, and so what you can see in appendix attachment A on page 158 is first of all just a bit of a summary of what's been happening over the quarter. So this gives you a sense of what's been going on for the large amount of the budget you actually allocate to the administration that is not about projects. So that's what page 158 is, and then 159 through to 162 lists all the projects that were in the capital works program or the operating projects program, and I've also supplemented that with the project-based resolutions that we've made since the election, which are of some size, just so you can get a bit of a sense about how they all sit together and the status of all of them. So you can see the way that table's set up. It's got what the project was, the department, what the budget you allocated was, what the action was, percentage completed, status, sort of on track, not commenced, whatever the case may be, sort of aligned to what we do for the resolution action report, and then some commentary for you there. If you then want to obviously inquire further with any of the responsible managers, they can provide that to you. And then at the very end, which is page 163, is the financial report that you use to get on a quarterly basis too. So it's kind of putting it all into one document, hopefully for you. And this might be something that we actually even tidy up a little bit and put on our website, so members of the public can also easily see the quarterly performance report and understand where things are at, should they wish to do so.
That was a nice way.
Good idea.
Anyway, so that's, there we go. So, I can read the recommendations now. So recommendations are that council resolves to 1, receive and note the contents of the report. 2, note the progress in delivering the annual capital works program for 24-25. 3, note the progress in delivering the annual operating projects program for 24-25 and the core service provision summary. 4, note the first quarter 3 months financial performance report for the 24-25 financial year. And 5, approve the ongoing use of a consolidated quarterly performance report.
Was in need to separate those, so I haven't moved for Chris, secondary Luke. Anyone want to speak to that?
I've got a couple of little questions, I guess. The dental thing, we had $12,000 allocated to that. We haven't had to pay that yet.
Through the mayor, so absolutely spot on. So it was 12,000 for 2 visits. They did the first visit in late August. They've invoiced us for that, although I just in an email earlier this week, I said, yeah, that's fine, but you're meant to be giving us a report on the numbers and that sort of stuff. And so that will be coming, and then we'll pay the first half.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just checking.
So to answer, we haven't paid yet, but I've got it, but I want my performance rating first.
Yes. And depreciation was a long way out on what we budgeted for. Is that because of something?
That's a question I'll throw to Tony.
Depreciation, what page is that? 162?
My guess through the mayor is that probably it just hasn't been allocated yet.
Oh.
I don't think depreciation will be hugely out because it's a formula.
Yes, I thought, I mean, that should be just pretty standard. And also, I was wondering what happened.
I think maybe it has been allocated, sorry, even though the way the financials are constructed, it was staggered, but it's probably a non-cash transaction,
Yeah.
But Tony, through the mayor, Tony can advise separately if there is anything other than it's just the timing of allocation.
And then I was looking at amounts received specifically for newer upgraded assets or asset disposal. So where's the new cars and utes that was sold or traded?
Through the mayor, I would suggest that probably hasn't, given that when those transactions took place, that probably hasn't hit that yet. But sorry, you're saying, amounts received for newer upgraded assets. Well, there aren't any. Sorry,
There was 2 new utes.
Sorry, it'll be the asset disposal. Yeah, huge charge. Yeah, but Tony, would that be the thing? It just hasn't been allocated yet. I'm guessing all your time. Yeah, it's just a timing thing, probably.
I've already spent the money into cars, should have got a trade in.
Yeah, we absolutely got traded.
No, but it's when the timing of the report, because that would have been end of September. Yeah. But that one I think is worth coming back with an answer quickly. Yeah. On that.
Separately.
Yeah, so-
Different advice.
Yeah, through there, just while you're on the vehicles, I mean, you probably see on page 160, I think, all the pieces of the plant that we've procured so far, we've all procured them all under the budget allocation.
Yeah.
Actually, other than one year.
That's an up, was a lot.
Gender trades too.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
The question asked next time.
Yeah,
The question asked next time.
And where's the money?
Yeah, don't forget.
No, that's all, that's all.
No, just so long as that gets asked later, right?
I'll say yes.
All right, no worries.
We go, no, and start talking.
Thanks for doing that. It's good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say the same, I concur. I think that's a really good format, and what it does is prevent things dropping off. Because when mine read, there's all those capital projects will sit there in a nice way of seeing it. So I think it's a really good, and the colour coding to see how it's progressing is also good. I think that's
through the mayor, I suppose what it, what it also probably shows, and why I also put the ones in that are projects adopted post AVP adoption, is to give a sense of the volume
Impact
of work that there is, and then you can, you'll be able to see completion status moving or not moving, and have an understanding of perhaps the reasons why.
right. Thank you.
You didn't,
Was that
you didn't
stuff-
pick that up, man.
I was just sitting here thinking, gosh, I'm going to do a sheet for myself.
Yeah.
And anyway, all those in favour? Against? Thank you. You were good up until that last bit, you just lost us on that bit. You had us up till
You
then.
can't have freedom when you're leaving.
You had us up till then. Yeah. 164, reports Christmas festivities road closures. Yeah, on board. Okay. Ready for this one? Oh, no. Well, sorry. You're 8.6. Meters high,
He wrote that before he went on leave. So.
A good CEO would have taken that over before you know, and only just got back, but anyway.
No, I recognition's too long.
I can only complain about it too much. So cool. So this report's just about Christmas road closure. Request was made for the Penaroo Progress Club Association. I hadn't heard of them until I jumped on the phone and chat to one of the members there, and just requesting as of last year the road to be closed over the final date allocated there, 20th, Friday 20th of December, just for the duration of that evening, 25 and 9, to undertake some festivals and activities. So I'm happy to take those as read if you want. Yeah. Easier time. We wouldn't do it for Lachlan, but we will for you. I spent on leave a bunch of day after the chat to us. So still. It is what it is.
It's done every year.
Yeah, it's done every year.
So recommendation is we'll take that as read. Do I have any for that? Campbell, seconder, Luke. Sorry, David, I missed. So anyone want to, any questions?
Have we done one Glamorou as well, though?
No, we only go there now.
Over the island.
Okay.
This is what's
Can't
happened.
really, can't close that, mate.
This is what's happened the last 20 years.
Pretty hard.
All those in favour? Against? Gary, thank you.
That was a bit hard.
I think for that one. 167, 8.7, council resolution, patient status report. Miller.
So thank you through the mayor. This report, members that you hopefully are used to now. Sets out all of the resolutions since the election that are still open, and they have status update, and some of them, as the administration are suggesting, are completed. However, that's a matter for you to decide whether they are. And if you do decide they're completed, then we won't provide any further status updates in relation to those items. So the recommendation is that council resolves to 1, receive and note the contents of the report, and 2, determine that the resolutions identified in attachment 1 as completed have been accomplished and no further status updates will be provided on those resolutions.
Yeah. Neville, second, anyone want to speak to that? Chris, can you,
Pete's well informed.
I've got one I'd just like to, it's probably more of a statement than a question, and it's, I kind of understand the reasons for it, but if we go to 8.5, page 174, which is SMDC Building Asset Management Report and Planning. This is, I'm not attacking people, it's more to say, we've got two of them out there now. The first one was last year, the second one was January this year, where like it's really getting long in the tooth, and that we just need to, I understand there are things in progress, but it's all well and good to have it on the report here, but we've got to make sure that we're enacting these things as quickly as we can. And I do understand there are mitigating circumstances, but that one in particular is playing a big part in our future discussions and decisions. And I know it's getting closer, but so it was more a comment than anything else. Anything else? More to be paid on it? Yes, Barry, thank you. Notice of motions 9.1, page 198. Councillor Michelle.
Yeah, I move a motion that council investigates the cost and feasibility of constructing 2 transportable houses or similar budget construction method on vacant land owned by council, Lameroo and or Pinneroo.
What a bit of more than welcome to. I mean, your rationale is quite lengthy, so it's there if you want us to take it as read, or you.
I just think we can't employ people from out of town unless we have housing for them. I think they'll pay for themselves long term, and I think there's quite a few ways you can pay for them. But if I was the way I'd like to see it happen is that, like, the assets that are talked about in the next motion I put, if you sold them off, you could probably use them, reinvest them back in the town and build something like this. It would also be good to have a project ready in case grant funding does come up where something like this would be appropriate for. And this is just for the costing. This isn't me saying, let's go out and do this.
So I've got Campbell moving his motion. Do I have a seconder? Roll that up, yes. Page 202, 9.3.
Yeah, so this motion is that we undertake a workshop in November to assess and categorise the land and building assets we have to enable consultation with the community. So I think we've been a bit piecemeal with how we've gone about dealing with all these assets. I think the first thing we need to do is maybe go through the list, look at all the land and buildings we own, and kind of categorise the stuff we definitely want to keep, stuff that needs further investigation, stuff that maybe could be disposed of. And then after a bit more of that investigation, we could probably go to the community for the consultation with that. And this might be a good way to move on a few properties that we probably don't need anymore and get some money for them. And once we sell them, we'll get money for them there. We'll start to get rates income from them too. So there's quite a few bits of land there that I identified. I don't know much about the Lameroo ones, but the Pinneroo ones, I think that'd be a really good piece of land to get to move on. There's nothing currently in the works to enable us to deal with them. So yeah, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. I think we need to do it pretty soon, which is why I said November, because we're going to have a new CEO coming in soon, just going to slow things down. And then 6 months before the end of our term, we're going to caretaker mode. So if we want to get stuff done, it's in the next 12 months kind of thing, I think. So I'd like to see it happen fairly soon.
Okay, so Campbell has moved that. Do I have a seconder? No. Trevor? Thank you. Noted, saying. Okay, so back to that, Chris.
It's listed the implications. We're having it in November, but we have given administration help. And I totally agree with getting that up. It's just, is it actually possible for administration to get that up? So I agree with it, but yeah, the practicability of it, getting it done on top of what we're already asking may be possible as stated.
Yeah, that's yours. Lachlan thinks the same thing. Is it possible?
Sorry, are you asking the question?
Yeah, I'm sort of asking, through the Met.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah, look, I suppose in the response, I suggested that, you know, with the large number of property related projects we currently have, including the one that the mayor just raised and said he wanted to really get it moving along, I think will be a big stretch to have something ready for the November meeting that would be of any sort of substance to run through. And I suppose so in terms of preparation, I have a concern about the preparation for that. But mostly what my concern is exactly what is the workshop doing? What is the criteria they're using to assess whether things should or shouldn't be kept? I've got some questions around what it would look like. I think it would need some planning, and probably a little bit more time than what we have. And the other issue is, as the report says, is that we are, you know, about to kick off a first piece of work on buildings, asset management and condition assessment and that sort of stuff. So again, I'm not sure where this workshop would fit into that process.
Yeah, I just had the same thought. We're sort of pushing it pretty hard and we run out of time to do it really quick with our CEO leaving soon. So it's a good idea. I'm not against it, but I just think we need to give that time, more time on it. We discussed stuff today, what houses, what blocks available, but I think we've got to cover more, like you said in the report. So I agree with it, but yeah, I think just rushing it through to November, we've got an justice doing that. But out a bit longer, get more results and better results. We just going to be too rushed to expect to be done by November. That's all.
I'm all for it. I think it's a good thing. Again, I just don't think these guys are under the pump. I think November's might be a little bit too soon, but I'm all for it. So.
Yeah, I think this process started back in January where we're going to work out what assets and stuff we have. So I think we should get on with it.
What I would say, I don't disagree with it either, but what I would say is that the process is happening. So the big key assets that are the ones put the land aside, because I think for me they're two separate things. Selling off land is different to disused buildings that have no use or no life, because an undeveloped piece of land can be dealt with differently. But we have, and I'm happy to say it in this forum, so we being CEO and myself, have a meeting with Prilla groups next Wednesday to discuss the Prilla Sports Ground and its future, and that's with representatives of the cricket club, tennis club, sports club and lawnmower racing group. So we've got that meeting, that's happening. We're in the process, or I'm in the process of coordinating the meeting to talk about halls and kitchens. Now it's not because the hall's going, but where's that money going to be spent, which is the big asset picture stuff as well. And obviously, Geranium, where we're waiting for the outcome of the school facility to understand what ramifications that has to the sports ground. So there are a lot of things that are underway now to happen hopefully in the next sort of month to find out what the direction of some of those things will be. None of them are decisions. These discussions aren't making decisions, they're just talking. So I agree, I think there's a timeline for me, and I reckon you could, if you separated out land from the other things, I think that's a separate piece, like if the land at Pinaroo, if you wanted to move that to be sold off, that to me could be a separate motion, just asking that. And I reckon that's easier. I'm still not saying that by November, but it's something that could be considered separately, as opposed to wrapping it all into one thing. Post these things happening, then as in these meetings that we're having and so on, then I think you could absolutely revisit this in the new year once we've got some intel about where we're heading and we've got our new CEO. Absolutely something. So that's my thought. That's your motion.
Would you be open to changing the November bit?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we think that's fair.
Because I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, I think that I take it on board that we have got some works for some of the buildings. Yeah. There's a lot of buildings we haven't assessed yet. But I think this probably should be where we should have started. Maybe we're doing everything and then go to that. What seems like a realistic timeframe for getting this workshop up?
Truthfully, I can't answer because I don't know what future you're going to have in terms of CEOs.
Well, I'll amend it just to remove the date from there. I can do that, I can amend that motion.
Through the net, you can do a variation, remove it with the consent of the seconder and leave the meetings granted, you can do a variation.
Actually, the way the rule, I mean, it's not mine to speak again, so, I don't know, can I seek the leave of the mover to speak again?
You can seek the leave of the meeting.
I just want to ask another question, that's all. Can I leave the meeting to ask Amber another question? Yeah. So all I was going to say is this, I think there's two ways of doing this from just working my head. One is if you amend it now, it will sit on the register but won't have a timeline.
Yeah.
Or you've got a good feeling from the chamber about no one is against what you're saying, and I wonder if it's not better to take it back, not take it back, but let it go, so we won't pass it, and then you can bring it back either in part or in total when we've got the new CEO and roll it into the next series of work, because then you'll know whether is it a quarter, is it by the end of the year, like when is it going to be? So that's the two ways, I think.
I think I'll make a variation that remove the date, so we're still going to have the workshop, but we'll obviously have to discuss with the new CEO when that will occur.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and I think it was seconded by. Yeah. So Trevor's happy with that. Yep. So everyone's spoken. All those in favour?
Sorry.
Oh, we're not going to move it again now.
You need leave the meeting to do the variation, and then you'll put the motion.
Yeah.
The vote. Yeah.
Okay. So can we have leave of the meeting to put the variation? So that's just a vote, is it?
Just show of hands.
Show of hands. Thank you. And in that case, Campbell put his very motion. I take a workshop starts removing November 2024. So very, you put in, so variation of the date.
Copy that, but.
Remove
won't
date,
have the
yeah.
date.
We'll type it.
Sorry.
It's a bit.
I can do it.
Yeah, so yeah, Trevor's happy to re-second that. Yeah, so seconded again by Trevor. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. So now we go to page 27.
26.
Start the other side. Okay, that's wrong. You be with, because you always do that. There it is. Right, 206 questions on notice. We don't have any. 11 questions without notice.
Yeah, my question without notice, page 100.
Haven't got you yet, Chris. Cameron?
One question, I had a ratepayer ask me, probably Karen, I told him to council asked about a townhouse here, they wanted to extend their driveway and the curbing on the driveway so they can get their caravan from there, because the current curbing wasn't wide enough. They want to know if that was a council thing or they were able to do it themselves. And after the council asked the question, see a response.
Anything that's on council's financials on the council land, having to sell it, it's reasonable.
Yes, yeah, would go, they'd go another foot in order to get his caravan in and out without. Run away. He was happy to do it himself, I said, yeah.
Point of order, Chris, this is not a foot.
That's a big foot.
That's how wide.
That was it.
Thank you. That's really a notification. No.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the council's going to do anything about the drought situation that's affecting a lot of the farmers in the area.
Well, yeah, I mean, realistically, it's a matter of you want the chamber to put out a letter or a document, tell us what you want, and put it through council and put it out. I haven't put anything out as mayor as yet, but if you want to inform me, I'm happy to put something out. That's no problem. If that's the will of the chamber to do that. But then we need to, under what are you looking for it to say? And
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's only going to be words, like it won't be a financial package or anything like that. It's just words.
Just let them know we've got a drought.
well, acknowledge.
I still think it's worth.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
It's worth saying something.
Yes,
Like to,
Yeah, back up.
on a Coorong's done it and Coorong's Brooding Council's done it.
Perhaps I'll rephrase it a different way. What if I put something together and send it out to you to see if you're happy with it, and then I can just put it out as me as the mayor,
Yeah.
rather than coming through the chamber, because I was going to wait until next month.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got 2 questions.
Luke? Oh, sorry.
yes. Could we change it to Neville's Corner?
No, I've got 2 questions.
Okay, Glenn.
And people on Lamoureux South Road, they've got the row of trees there. People driving through the trees where they're not supposed to be. And I've told the residents, write a letter to council and complain about that. Something might get done, but I haven't seen anything happen though. So whether that letter has been received by council, whether they've been driving through the trees and creating a dust bowl. And
This is the one where it's got the 3 cones out there.
yeah, I think
So I gave the same advice to the ex-mayor who knows how the system works, so there hasn't been a letter that's come
Through the
through.
mayor, I think the letter went into an
I did,
the 3 things probably.
Actually did about 2 or
3 months ago.
But was council hasn't, who put the things up there, cones, was it residents or the council?
That's residents.
Yeah, but I think it's-
So through the mayor, from a council point of view, as you know, for those who know Lamoureux South Road, I mean, there are multiple places where people have been crossing over, so it would require fencing, and I thought we had discussed it. So we would need to put fencing up, like wire fencing or whatever through, which has got cost associated with it, which we were not going to initiate it. So given that there's multiple places, it's not like one little area.
No, there's a whole heap.
It's all the way along, so, you know, council would have to decide that they want to invest in us actually putting fencing to prevent it. So that's kind of where it's at. It's a little bit exacerbated because we don't have bylaws, and so people are driving over the top of local government land, which if we had bylaws about local government land, says you don't drive over local government land, but we don't have bylaws, so they are driving over local government land.
But then you can be able to enforce it, but.
Well, no, of course not.
But it was just a horse white wire just on a post, it stops them, they lift it, cut, go under it or over it or cut it down, but something like that, just so there's a barrier there, just something that they've got to drive around instead of cut through there, so whether the council can look at that. Anything just like that, something to stop the cars cut through it, so I think, yeah. It's not going to cost a fortune. Well, it won't cost a big lot, but something needs to be done there sometime soon, I think. But I know we get these.
Any,
You can put a physical barrier, it's common, that if the vehicle's stopping on the land, you can put big parking fences. But you can't obviously grab a bottle of driving car, but yes, it's common for rocks or posts to be placed on footpaths.
Yeah, is there any trees you can push up?
To block, that's fairly common.
Somewhere they've even driven on the bitumen, it's reckoned the bitumen on the edge there, it's dropped, reckon that as well a little bit, I think, so.
but I think, I think we've got to get this in clarity, like both sides of the road, people are driving over various parts of that road. One resident is saying they don't want it and the rest have got no issue with it.
I was going to say, what's wrong with it?
So, well, on theirs, it's gone to dirt and it creates dust. I'm actually wondering, we've got a concrete bench, seat and table bench in the yard.
Put that there.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind rock right here, it's actually quite good, there's very big ironstone rocks.
Put blocks on there, but you're going to be littering blocks potentially.
A lot on it.
We're going to have to see.
I mean, just in response to a specific request from a specific.
Yeah, I just
versus
wonder what we
getting
do.
rid of the whole thing.
We receive these letters, but we don't sort of acknowledge them sometimes, we acknowledge them, but we don't do nothing about it. So I thought it's about time we do something about that to help them out when they're doing this. Because I think it's killing the tree there where they keep driving all the time. I said, maybe it's just you plant some more trees there where they're driving, so they have to drive around them. So they won't drive over them, but.
Could be easy to, consider, option of bylaws.
Yeah, then you have to police them. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a question I had, so I'll just leave it open. You can come back with a reply next month or something, just what I think you can do about it anyway, but Another one, question I noticed, was going back to page 148 about this retirement village, getting someone to, if we can get someone to go in there, or if we haven't got anyone coming in there soon that we can look at that, in case we want someone that wants to start there for the childcare purposes or a new CEO or whatever, that we can get something moving on that, so we can do something there, so. Yeah, that's
So what's the question?
the question was, what are we going to do about this? We've got the report that said we can put people in there if it's not required, if it's not immediately required, the unit, and I think we should sort of get that into action if it's needed. In the meanwhile, like in case we need it, rather than we haven't got any residents going in there, we have to wait and see what's happening in the next couple of months.
But we can't do anything if we've got people actively looking at it.
Yeah, so
I think what I took from what Lachlan said was that to be able to enact that, you have to prove to the department that you've taken adequate steps to fill the vacancies. We've taken steps and advertised them, and there currently are people being considered to go in there. So at the moment, that's what they're considering, but there was an issue around that. But that's for the current one. That's for Unit 2. But there is another one coming up in the future. And obviously, discussed previously about the buy-in, because that's the other thing that sets what things are changeable. So I'm not sure, other than council dealing with the current application they've got, they have to do that. And then if that wasn't suitable because of the pets, whether that would comply, whether they'd have to re-advertise and go again to see whether they could still fill it.
I'd just rather see someone in there than sit 6 months waiting for someone to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we should be on the ball and jump in, and something's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Yeah, Sean's got some data.
Sorry, Colin.
I may be wrong about this, but I think the applicant you want to put in there, it's a case by case basis. You can't just have a blanket open slab. You actually have to have an idea of who you're putting in there for them to assess it at the OFAW. You can't just say we want someone to go in there.
No, okay, right.
So you have to have an applicant you're putting in there so that they can assess that first.
Can council be the applicant?
No,
They can't. No.
because how do I assess your referees, etc.?
But if no one knows they can go there, how can we have an applicant? Like,
Yeah, but if the council gets to the point where they want to put someone there because we don't have anyone there, we will then have someone that we're putting up.
you're right, yeah.
You with me?
Yes, I think that. Yeah. Just follow the right steps.
Yes, you can't jump the gun and have a blanket
Yeah. Okay.
application. You have to have it for an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I guess we just have to be aware that something comes up like we sort of
Yes.
enact it fairly soon, don't just wait years to do something about it. Yeah. No, that's all my questions. So I've covered it.
I don't have any questions. Cool. Thank you very much. Righto, 12, confidential items, 12.1. Moving the confidence for the audit risk committee meeting. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Hold on, we've got
I
to.
should do this first. Sorry, we moved that.
And seconder?
Yeah.
Neville. All those in
Neville,
favour?
there you go.
Oh, we have to do that. Oh, yeah, we do. We have to go in, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, all in favour, not against, yep. Righto. Board and Risk Committee report, turning to second.
Just wait, whilst you're in, stop that.
Rules.
Beneath, look, you look pretty big there, I think.
Oh, yeah, Ham's like smiling at us. That looks like he's about to do a movie.